presto, changeo, and now here's me. Hocus pocus, we take her to bed. Magic is free. We're dead.
Josephine Levine presents Magic, a terrifying love story starring Anthony Hopkins, Ann-Margaret and Burgess Meredith. Rated R.
Hey folks, welcome back to this episode of Unfinished Business Deep Dive. This week we're going to be talking about the 1978 classic movie Magic, and of course, let me do introductions. Hi, I am Jeff Galashaw, the host of Unfinished Business Television. With me, as always, is Andre Joseph of AJ Epics. And as you might notice, we have an extra guest this week. We have our guest, April Brucker. She's an accomplished actress, comedian, and reality show personality, not to mention a professional ventriloquist who has appeared on numerous shows, including Wendy Williams and Judge Jerry. And thank you for being with us this week.
Thank you. And wow, you did your research on me. I love the intro. Thank you so much. As a matter of fact, I don't think Corky got an intro that was nearly as good, even when he made it to the big time. So
you're welcome. You picked this week's deep dive, Magic, starring Anthony Hopkins, directed by Richard Attenborough. Can you tell us a little bit why you picked this film?
Well, as a professional ventriloquist, and that's all I've ever wanted to do my entire life. Whenever you tell people you're interested in puppets and ventriloquism, they say, have you seen this episode of The Twilight Zone? Have you read this Goosebumps? And oh my gosh, have you seen Magic? And so for the longest time, I had not seen Magic, but I saw pictures of it. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, one of my uncles said, April, as long as you're going to do that, don't become like Anthony Hopkins in Magic. And I'm like, what? So anyway, I was always fascinated by the film. And then when I got older and I ended up on TLC's My Strange Addiction, I was backstage in the Today Show. And one of the guys working tech, he says to me, by the way, I just want to tell you that one of my favorite scary movies is Magic. Have you ever seen it? And I said, no, I've never seen Magic. And then a few months later, I got to work with the late Otto Peterson. And if you've never seen a clip of Otto and George, I recommend that you do it. Otto was skilled, as in he offended people with the triple X awards. So anyway, it was rumored that he was the basis for Magic. And so he denies it. But I think that it's a cool story. So then I watched Magic and I was blown away by Richard Attenborough's direction. Obviously, Anthony Hopkins' performance, but the one who I think is the mainstay, who's probably one of the most under-celebrated actors of all time, was Burgess Meredith. And there were just twists and turns throughout Magic, where on one hand, it's this scary story with this ventriloquist, but on the other hand, it's this really delightful, simple love story.
Agreed.
Yes, and also the beginning of Magic, I feel for it so hard when he does that amateur night and he tanks.
Oh, yeah.
I have tanked so many times in my life as a professional ventriloquist. But then he talks to the older ventriloquist and magician, and then in the next scene, he's a star. And it's quirky and Fats, and as a matter of fact, every ventriloquist has a Fats. Would you guys like to meet my Fats?
Of course.
Like, oh my God, are we talking about Magic? Yes. So what do you think of Corky, May? Well, I think Corky is like a lost cause. Good Fats, I gave my phone number and he won't return my phone calls. He won't return your phone calls. Yes, I said Fats. I can give you a fatty anytime. Wow. May Wilson, everybody.
Yeah, so Magic for me, I would say the first time I heard about this was kind of in a very roundabout kind of way. So I used to do a toy podcast, which every now and then I might bring back, and I'm a big toy collector. And I must have come across this on Google Images, like Kenner used to make this thing called Hugo, the Doll of a Thousand Faces, or something like that. And it was like really scary looking. Like it looked like Yul Brynner back during the Westworld days. And I remember posting this on my page, and then one of my friends reacts, and he shows me the creepy 2-second trailer from the original Magic with, Corky the doll, Fats the doll, like just talking about killing people in, this weird kind of teaser. You didn't know anything about this movie. You thought it was straight up a horror film. And even my mom saw it, and she told me how she used to get scared a bit when she was growing up. So I was like, okay, I got to check this out because Richard Attenborough's directed this, and you got Anthony Hopkins before like everybody knew him as Hannibal Lecter. And so I had to see this. And like you were saying, April, it was more than just the thriller. It was like literally this tragic love tale of a guy that for a moment seems to have that moment of success. And then they're like, oh, well, you got to go through some medical exams and tests before you go on to the late show. It's like, oh, no, I can't do that. Goes into the Catskills and reconnects with his ex love interest played by the lovely Ann-Margaret, who I think looks ravishing in this film.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just literally, you have the whole deal with the boyfriend that she lives with, who unfortunately I always think of Death Wish 3 every time I see him. And Ed Lauder. So yeah, like it was just one of those movies that I was kind of shocked, probably because William Goldman wrote it, that it had so much depth to it, and it was more psychological character study than anything else.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a secret?
Sure.
You really do sit around and tell our ventriloquist to kill, kill, kill. Okay, May, stop it. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Hey, feel free to talk whatever you want. Me, I've heard about this film over the years. It's actually came out the year I was born. So anybody out there can do the math. But it's a film I always saw clips of and always heard about. And, obviously after Silence of the Lambs, everybody mentioned, oh, you could tell he was a great actor even before you ever see the movie Magic. And realistically, I didn't watch it until 5 years ago for the first time full way through. And I was just blown away by everyone in the cast because, everybody talks about Anthony Hopkins, but then as you're watching, like, oh, that's Ann-Margaret? Wait, that's Ed Lauder? Burgess back? David Ogden Stiers? And then it just stays contained like thriller, more psychological. So that is why, I liked it, instead of it being this encompassing tale or ending up like a tale from the crypt episode. So, and again, it's directed by Richard Attenborough, who isn't known for making this type of film. These are usually epic dramas. And here he makes this small, quaint little tale that still haunts you after it's done. So that this is really one of those like underrated gems that everybody seems to know about, but nobody seems to celebrate. Or maybe that's because they want everybody to discover it for themselves.
And that's what I say, but here's the thing. Fast the Dummy, that was his first hit. That was his last hit. He doesn't know what he's missing. Because here's the thing. April and I, we hope to be in the remake of Magic. And that's the thing. That's one of my life goals, is to be in a modern adaptation of Magic, because I could easily see Corky as a woman. And this is why. And I kind of identify with Corky, one, because I'm a ventriloquist. And he's gone to town on stage, even though I've been great. But secondly, I have been, if you've ever followed me, extremely unlucky in love. I was with a guy a number of years ago. We were engaged. He made me choose him or the puppets. She eventually chose the puppets, even though it took her a year. And I dumped him. And long before COVID-19 went viral, we went global in the Daily Mail. And we went global from England to Iceland to Italy, then from Russia to China to India, then from Ghana to Nigeria to Kenya, then from Singapore to Australia to Malaysia, then from Colombia to Brazil to Guatemala. That's right. We are celebrities in Guatemala, and the headline read as follows: ventriloquist who splashes out 20 grand a year on her puppets. They even have their own bedroom. Dumps her fiance after he says, it's them or me. Folks, I thought I'd found my Mr. Right. Boy, was I wrong. So, I'm not looking for Mr. Right. I'm just desperately seeking Mr. Okay. Hey, girl, you don't need a random guy from Oklahoma. You have Andre and Jeff.
Or,
Yeah, I identify as quirky. That's what I was doing. That's
or
me.
Bo. But it's funny you mentioned remaking Magic, because right now Sam Raimi is actually looking to do an adaptation of it.
Yeah, and Sam Raimi is such a gifted director, and he's just got such a body of work. And one thing about scary movies is they always get the reputation for being schlocky. But if you get like a really good imagination, like a Wes Craven, a Sam Raimi, where the imagination is so good, it is an art form. And even Hitchcock, like they know how to bring out the screen.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that even Anthony Hopkins wasn't the first choice. It was actually Gene Wilder, but the producers were against it because they didn't want somebody who was a known comedian to be too distracted in the role. They wanted somebody who, I guess, be more surprising. And even to this, even unfortunately, passing, Gene Wilder has always been critical of the movie, saying it would have worked better with me.
What do you think of that, May? No, Gene Wilder was way too positive to be quirky. You needed somebody, who looks like nobody wants to give him a date, like Anthony Hopkins. But May, that's not a nice thing to say about a talented actor. Well, I probably wouldn't date him if he wasn't Anthony Hopkins. But Anthony Hopkins, if you're watching, you're old and you're rich and you could advance my career. This is what I live with. But Gene Wilder would have totally been wrong, because when you think about it, Corky is somebody who cannot get a date. He doesn't have the guts to talk to this woman. He's always been in love with her. He's been friend zoned. Gene Wilder will make you laugh at a party. He'll get your phone number. Gene Wilder is not friend zoned.
And it wasn't the only choice they considered. They were even considering Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, and
Jack
whoa,
Nicholson would have been too much, because the thing with Corky, and this is where I'm a little protective of the character, is this is somebody who he's creative and he's just so tremendous in one respect, but his interpersonal skills suck. He's not the Joker. He's shy, and there's a difference. Only girl. That's why I always said you make a shitty Joker. May! You're talking about live people on this, okay? You see, we're how do I say that? The textile Americans and the wooden Americans, and this is our film. And so how do you feel about the way you're portrayed? Well, every once in a while, we tell every ventriloquist to kill, like I said earlier, but it's just a joke. God, I never thought they'd actually do it. So what do you think? I just think, but anyway, go on, guys.
favorite scenes from the film?
Oh gosh, yes. First off, I love the scene, because this breaks my heart every time I see it, where he's doing the amateur night in tanks, because I have been there so many times where I could not get it together on stage. Like I said earlier, I'm always fabulous. So I look at that scene and I'm like, freaking ventriloquist. But that's my favorite scene. But then what's your favorite scene? Oh, my favorite scene is when Fats starts to charm the pants off of Ann-Margaret. Because, you see, whenever April gets a date, I'm the reason she gets the date. You see, Corky couldn't get his own date, so he had to use Fats. April can't use her own dates, so she uses Law. It's true, May is my wing woman. So, yes, Fats was his wingman. But the other scene I love, and I'm actually trying to perfect this in my live show that I'm doing in Vegas, is there's a scene where he has a heckler in the audience, and he finally has that good set. He's doing his magic, and he goes out into the audience, and Who is it? It's Max doing all the work being a star. Like I am whenever April brings me out. It's true. My show only gets good when Mae Wilson comes out. So anyway, he brings them up and it is just such a wonderful effect. And it actually is one of those scenes that I love it because it's the reason the film's called Magic, because you know what magic is. Magic is misdirection, and ventriloquism is misdirection. Like, for instance, you're looking at I'm fabulous, but you're not looking at April's mouth. It might be moving. Mate, my lips aren't moving. I didn't say, like, set out.
I say for me, my favorite scene is when Burgess Meredith goes to the cabin, or or not to talk for 5 minutes, just can't do it. And obviously, it's a performance, but more so Burgess Meredith, as we were talking about. Ultimately, Porky decides he's going to take this guy out and try to drown him. I'm actually not like horrified. I'm like, yeah, good, drown him.
Listen, when the down gets tough, the tough gets going. Yes, ventriloquists got to stick up for themselves. Sorry, Burgess Meredith, but I will say this for Burgess Meredith. Like, Laurence Olivier would have absolutely been the wrong choice for that role because he was very regal. You needed somebody tough. And I think Burgess Meredith, like I said, is very under-celebrated because he was the friggin' Penguin at one time. He was Mickey and Rocky. He's the manager. That man, if you gave him a role, he was in 12 Angry Men. He was always working. Like, Burgess Meredith is I look at my career as a performer, I'm like to be like Burgess Meredith, just always working and constitutionally incapable of saying no to anything.
Oh man, my favorite scene I would have is when he's sitting there with Ann-Margaret and he's trying to get her to guess which card he's looking at, and he's just getting more and more upset. And there wasn't a bigger red flag for her at that moment. You know, you would think if she recognized, but she's so in love with him. She's like, "Oh, I find this charming about you. It's different about you." Like, "Oh, you're doomed." You know.
Yes. Oh, totally. And babe, what did you think of that scene? Well, I think that's what you get when you date a ventriloquist and a magician. Don't date a ventriloquist or magician. Note: April made the mistake of dating a magician once. Never again.
I'm sure it was mere how fast he disappeared out of your life.
Yeah, that was totally and so, but I will say this though, like every red flag is there. But speaking of casting choice, Ann-Margaret was perfect for that role because she's very beautiful, but she also has this simplicity where you could see where somebody could be in love with somebody like that because she's very sweet and she's not complicated. And he's somebody who's insanely complicated.
Oh yeah.
She married a guy who basically, yeah, he can see that where she married a guy who he was a safe choice. He was that guy who wasn't going to challenge her, who had no goals. All he wanted to do was chop wood, have a woman cook his food, and just boss her around. I like the guy y'all marry, April. Be quiet, May. I'm doing an interview. So anyway, but her life is just so awful that you can see Corky being the way out. And so I love the symbolism where she decides she's going to run off with Corky. But he's already been killed. The Ed Lauer character's been killed. And Fats and Corky are dead. But she's free, and she's free of all these toxic men in her life.
Yeah, it's just like, again, a film that really more people need to discover and discuss, and you know that whole thing where you're not quite, the movie tries to paint it, but it's more obvious whether or not Fats is working on his own or if it's Anthony Hopkins that's just a separate personality or his id, so to speak. And you know, only in one scene you really see Fats' eye move on its own, where he's wondering, was that a glitch or is he really alive and stuff? And and you can't tell me that Don Mancini of the Chucky movie did not watch this film and start taking notes as to, I've got my perfect plan.
So, May, what do you think of all this? Can I tell you a secret? Sure, May, the world wants to know. I am real. I am absolutely real. Okay, I sued somebody in a court of law on Judge Sherry. I control April. It's not the other way around. So yeah, Flats was absolutely in charge. Corky was nothing before he came along. Nothing. So I'm in charge. May, if I take my hand out of you, you are not real. No, April, I am real. No, you are not real. I am real. Remember, we established this in court. No. I'm real. You are not real. I am real. You are not real. I am real. You are not real. I am real. You are not real. I'm not real. Wait, you're real. Gotcha.
Well, I think Jerry Springer gave you the nod of approval. So,
Yeah, and so, but May, like, but people think she's real. Just to give you an idea of how people, and this is not so far removed from reality, people have gotten mad at her at shows. I've had people try to punch her after shows. And there was one guy in Vegas, because we sing Mr. Sandman in our act. I'm singing, and he goes, oh my gosh, the puppet sings. Yeah, I actually sing. It's true.
Jess, any last word?
With Magic, the movie Magic, I say it's definitely a must-see. It should be added to anybody who has it. Definitely next up on the list. It's October, so it's perfect timing for them to watch it. Go in there. I'm not going to have high expectations. Just go with the movie where it takes you. And I think the way you'll enjoy it the most.
Yeah, and April, do you highly recommend the film?
Oh, I highly recommend the film for all ventriloquists and ventriloquist lovers. And I even talk about magic in my book, Don't Read My Lips. It's available on Amazon. And if you drop me a line and say that you watched this podcast and you saw me in me, May Wilson and I will send you an autographed book. DM us for more information. But I absolutely recommend it because it is just a simple love story with a psychotic ventriloquist.
And I definitely highly recommend movie with a lot of depth, some strong performances. Director Richard Attenborough, and I highly under that. I think more people who get into the movie.
Everybody, check me out on Twitter. I am under April Brucker. Instagram, the April Brucker. YouTube, April Brucker Comedy. Check out my book, Don't Read My Lips. And if you say that you saw it here, DM us. And April and I will send you an autograph copy, and I'll sign it. And you should watch Magic. And you should watch this. May, are you screaming? Oh my God.
First time we've had nudity.
May, I put you away. See, they ruined your life. It's true.
And with that ends this week's business. But as you know, we always have unfinished business to attend to. And thank you, April Brucker, for being a guest on our show. And we will see you guys next time.